So I personally like to cut lots of random shapes, but I'm trying to use up little scraps, and then I store them and keep them, because then when I'm doing something like this, I can just add some stars to embellish things. So I want you to go to Cricut Design Space, open it up, either click on the shapes, or if you're feeling adventurous, go to the images, find something you like. When you click on images, there's a button that says free, so you can filter and only see the free images. If you're not paying for the subscription, let's start with some freebies. Okay. Then we're going to grab our Cricut cutting mat. Remove the clear cover and keep that someplace safe. I do cover my mat when not in use. It helps to keep the dust from collecting. So I have already set up on my phone. See if I still have it up. There we go. I found some images I wanted to cut. I'm doing a lot of cards right now. So I found "You rock, you're great," and "party." And I thought those could be good little phrases for some cards. So once you've figured out what it is you want to cut and you have it on your Design Space screen, you're going to click Make It, which is that green button in the upper right corner. You're also going to see the app on the phone, because since I'm in my craft room, I figured it was easier to just do this on my phone. So for me, when I click Make It, I'm going to see a preview of the cutting mat. It's telling me it wants me to load the orange first. That's the first image it's going to cut, is the one that I have assigned to orange. So what I'm going to do is take my orange piece of cardstock. I'm going to place it in the upper left corner of my Cricut cutting mat. With the Cricut, it's always going to try to force your images to cut in the upper left corner. This is because a long time ago in Cricut history, when we were trying to get the most out of our materials, if we were cutting a whole page full of stars, I keep going back to stars because they're sitting right here on my cutting or my table. We wanted to get the most space or the most items out of the space we had. So it pushed everything to the upper left to try to squeeze it in. So now, if we look at our cutting machine, okay. When I insert my cutting mat into my machine, I want to make sure that it slides underneath these two little slots on the side. Then I want to press the double arrow, and I hold on to the end of my mat as I'm doing that, so that when it starts to pull it in, it really catches and pulls it all the way in. What do I mean by pull it all the way in? If you stand and look down at your Cricut like this, there's a little roller right here. You should be able to see some green of the cutting mat behind that roller if it's loaded fully in. If it's not fully loaded, your images might cut off the top of this mat, and that's not what you want. Okay, so I have my mat loaded. I can now hit my next, I think it might be continue if you're on the computer. It's going to show me what I have my material set for, because I have the machine that has the dial. If your machine does not have the dial, this is where you're going to choose your material. Cricut's going to give you some of the most popular ones: cardstock, vinyl, iron-on. But you can go to all items or all materials to search through for other materials you want to use. So my mat is loaded, and my C is blinking. So I press that C button, and now it's going to start cutting. Sometimes this can be like watching paint dry. So now the Cricut's going to stop because it's done cutting everything that was set to be in orange. So I can unload my mat. I know it's time to unload because that double arrow is blinking. Okay. The Cricut, because I had 3 different words in here, all in different colors, it's now telling me, okay, the next one I want to cut is the green one. So I know it's time to put green cardstock on here. Here's a little trick. No, you can tell people. I like to take my mat and rotate it. This is helping to keep my mat lasting longer. Think about it. If I always was loading and cutting in this upper left corner for lots of little things, this section of my mat would get less sticky really quick. So what I'm going to do this time for the green is fully rotate, take my green cardstock, put that in this upper left corner, because now this is the upper left because I've rotated it. So now I can load it this way, press the double arrow, press the blinking C, it's now going to cut the item that I assigned to green. Now it's all done, so I can unload. So now I've used my different corners. So technically, I should take one of these off and remove that space, that cardstock there, so I can cut in that corner again. But I'm going to show you another little trick. If I trim this, so it fits here. So the next piece that I'm going to cut is red. So I put a piece of red right over here. So on my Cricut Map Preview, I can actually click on the mat. There we go. There's a bigger preview. I can click on this piece right here and slide it. Wow. Let me do that again so you can actually see it. I can click on this piece that I'm telling the Cricut to cut and slide it over here. So now it's going to cut it in the farthest right corner. So I can click next. Then in this preview, I can see, wow, that's probably hard to see, that it moved it over to the right. So now when I load, and cut, you're going to see that instead of starting over here in the upper left, I forced it to go all the way over here to the right and cut over there by moving where that image was on my map preview. Again, a way to get more use out of your mats. If you're always cutting small things, you want to vary where you're cutting them and rotate things.
Shawn, What is are you using the Cricut app on the phone?
I am.
Oh, okay. I missed that part because I had to get back on again. So you can just check by, hold on, there's somebody on here. So I'm looking right now. So it's a Cricut Design Space that we use on the phone. Is that correct?
Yes, there's the Cricut app. Whoops. For the phone. It's also for the iPad. Can you see my rainbow?
Yeah, I see it. Okay.
Yep. So
Yeah,
make sure you're getting, yep. And all of these things that I'm showing you how to do, you can do them on the computer too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just right now, since I'm in my craft room and my computer's in the other room, I couldn't show that. Well, my light keeps going out. Did all of you cut something while you're watching me, or did you just watch?
So I did cut something.
Yay!
But my very first time, what I tried to cut didn't cut all the way through.
Okay.
And I think it was because I had fiddled with the blade, you know, when we were looking at that last time. So I took it out, reinserted it, and then it cut my next thing okay. But I forgot and didn't change my paper because I thought I was going to go back and cut the thing it didn't. And of course, the Cricuts moved down to the next deal. But I think it's working. So
okay. If you're just cutting one design and not multiple mats, I should have showed this one. If it doesn't cut all the way through, before you unload your mat, you can hit that C again and it will cut right over the top of the exact same design, as long as you did not unload your mat. I have actually done this when I do a lot of Disney crafting. And sometimes for my Disney projects, I use a little thicker cardstock. So there has been a time or two that I forgot to change my dial to a thicker cardstock setting. And it cuts it all out and it does this intricate Disney Mickey Mouse design. And I'm like, shoot, didn't cut all the way through. But since it's just that one piece, I just don't unload and hit the C again. And it goes right over the top. You're muted, honey.
yeah, that's what I should have done because I just did another one and it's not going on through. It's a little bit thicker paper, but it is paper. So is paper not the setting I should use for that then?
I typically use cardstock. The only time I have ever used paper is when I was cutting like copier paper.
Okay.
Like
okay. I see that now.
Paper.
I'm gonna have to look at my dial. I see now light cardstock and cardstock. So that will.
So light cardstock. I usually go, if you're in the cardstock stores, the craft stores, the ones that just feel more delicate and flimsy, light cardstock. But for we buy like the cardstock stacks.
Yeah, that's what I have is this.
Yeah. You know, the stacks like this.
Yeah.
That I usually cut on cardstock.
Just regular cardstock.
Yeah.
Okay.
The ones that sometimes say premium are usually thicker. So go to cardstock plus.
Cardstock plus. Yeah. Okay.
And you can feel them. Like when you pick it up and you're like, ooh, that just feels stiff. You know, it feels real stiff and kind of just thick and heavier. That's when you're going to want to go to cardstock plus.
Okay. Now that I know paper is copy paper, I think I can get that. Thank you very much.
No, that's a good thing to know. Basically, if you bought it at the craft store in the scrapbooking paper, I go cardstock. So now I'm going to unload my mat. I like to start off by peeling off the part that didn't cut. So kind of the excess. These are my scraps. Oh, here's a tip. So sometimes when you peel these big pieces off, the cardstock starts to curl. So flip your mat upside down. Kind of hold the cardstock down. And see if I can do this and talk at the same time. And peel the mat back. Versus peeling the cardstock off. Sometimes it works really good. For this cut, it is not. Yep, so there's a cut that I should have done the second cut on. All right. Live and learn. So now to get these pieces off of your mat, I grab the little spatula. And I just slide that underneath part of it and start to slowly, slowly take it off. And now, there we go. And it's backwards. So now I'll have this to put on a card later on. I am making a lot of cards right now. And I kind of, when I look at my cards, I started off as a scrapbooker. And when I look at my cards, sometimes I almost think of them as mini scrapbook layouts and, you know, make them into very kind of designs and things people want to keep. I actually have a couple cards that I've done for people that they've told me they've framed. So now, like, here's an example of a card I did. So you can see how I can add these embellishments that I'm cutting with my Cricut to cards. Any questions on cutting cardstock? And then you end up with all these little scraps. So you just scrape those off. I just continue to use the spatula to get those off. Some people do have a scraper edge that you can use. And this one, as I'm talking about it, I like this one because it's got a hard edge that I can use for scraping and loosening up pieces, but a softer edge for when I'm trying to burnish something down. This one is from My Craft Source. Remember, when you shop at My Craft Source, use coupon code Shawn Mosch at checkout and save 5% every day. And if we don't have any questions about cutting cardstock, I was going to move on to the next project, which is vinyl. Any questions? Are we ready to move on? I'm going to take this, we're ready to move on. But, you know, if need be, I can circle back. So I'm going to go to Cricut Design Space and I'm going to tap the new project button. It's a big green button. If you're already in the grid view, there is a new button that's in the upper left corner that says new. Click on that, you get a clean slate. Okay. I'm going to take my glasses off because I'm that old now where I can't see. So I'm going to click on text and I'm going to find a font that I like and just type up my name. Oh, that's kind of nice. So what you're going to see first is just a box that says text. Just start typing. And it's going to cut, or it's going to show my name on there. So now I can click on that and make it bigger if I want to. how big should I make this? This is the box that I plan to put this on. So I'm going to measure it. So whatever item you're using, make sure you measure it. So if I wanted to put the word right here, I really don't want to go any bigger than 3 inches wide. So if I click on this image, if you're on your computer, you're going to look at the top panel and you can just type in under size how big you want it. But under my app here, I would go under edit. And then it gives me the height and width. And I can make the width, I'm going to go 2.5. Come on. Two. Okay, so obviously my fingers are too fat because I did not push the buttons I wanted. So this is one of the things that I don't like working with the phone app. I like using the iPad app better. So now I have my word, it's 5.5. Okay. And I'm going to grab some permanent vinyl. I'm using Starcraft in a nice bright pink because pink is kind of my color. Okay, so I just want to smooth that down onto my mat. It's okay that some of this is hanging off the edge because this is even going to go into the Cricut. So now I'm going to switch my dial. And I'm actually going to go with Vinyl Plus. I've learned that a lot of times Vinyl Plus works better than vinyl. So now when I click make it, it's going to show me the map preview. And I say, yep, that's where I wanted to cut because I got a brand new sheet of vinyl. So the upper left corner is just fine. Again, I'm going to load it underneath the guides, press the double arrow, and you can see under here, I'm holding the mat so that when it starts to roll under the rollers, it really catches.
I have a question right quick. I don't see my raised hand. So when you're saying Vinyl Plus, do you mean like the dot past vinyl?
I do. Thank you for that call out. Yeah,
Okay.
it's, and if you have the one without the dial under materials, it would be called Vinyl Plus. I always suggest when you're switching between materials, it's always best to do a test cut. Or if you're trying a new brand of vinyl, do a test cut. Just cut a star, a heart, a something, and test the settings. Because this dial and all these settings are set up for Cricut brand products. So Cricut determined the best setting for their vinyl, for their iron-on, for their cardstock. As we know, there's a million different brands out there. So, it's like Coke or Pepsi. Like, there's going to be little nuances. So play with things, figure out your best settings, make a cheat sheet, write it down. But I have just learned over time, Vinyl Plus I like better. Okay, but that's also because I'm using a higher quality vinyl. If you're using a really cheap, thin vinyl, the vinyl setting might work just fine. So now my C is blinking, so I can press that. And it's going to start cutting. and ready to unload. Okay, so now I'm gonna peel this whole thing off the mat. I'm just gonna set my mat aside for a minute. So this is what I hear from most people the first time they cut vinyl. They look at this and they go, oh, it didn't cut all the way through. Because there's a backing sheet and it didn't go all the way through. You don't want it to go all the way through. You want it to just cut the top of vinyl piece and not cut through the backing. In old school Cricut world, we used to call this a kiss cut. That's because this vinyl, technically, the material has two layers, your vinyl layer and your backing layer. So you just want to cut through that top layer and kiss it, is what it's called. So now I'm trying to peel back the corner to show you. Oh, my nails aren't cooperating with me. It's always when I'm trying to record something or do something live on video that, you know, things go awry. I am going to just trim down this piece by cutting just around my name. Can you even see that? You can kind of see where I cut. Okay. Now I am going to grab my handy dandy pin pen. It's literally a pen with a little pin at the end. You could also use a weeding tool. I give you the weeding tool. I think it looks like the thing that the dentist cleans our teeth with. But it's got a little hook on the end. So this is what you can use to pick out the vinyl. I like to pick out my centers first. So like for my name, there's a little center on the A. It is really tiny, so I'm going to use my pin pen because I can just kind of poke it and pull it out. If you do not have one of these, I highly recommend getting one from mycraftsource.com. Before I owned this, I used to just use a straight pin, but they're harder to hold on to. And this one's like using an actual pen. So I'm just going to, can you see that? So I just poked into the center of the A and it picked that piece of vinyl up. Boom. Now I'm going to start in the corner of my vinyl. And I like to just kind of roll it away. This is because then if there's a piece that kind of sticks, I can kind of stop it and set it back down. I'm surprised this is actually working. I'm crafting with one hand and holding my iPad with the other so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, let me finish. Okay, so now I end up with this. The pink is the vinyl, the white is my backing. What we just did with removing the excess is called weeding. Note, I am not a gardener, so whenever you hear Shawn say, I'll be weeding, I'm talking about this. Okay. If we have no questions about cutting and weeding, the next step is how do you get that onto here and keep it all straight? That is where the beauty of your transfer sheets come in. I have also been known to use clear contact paper. It's a nice little hack. You can pick up clear contact paper at almost any store that sells household supplies. I think you can even get it at the dollar store. And then you just can use that for quick and easy. So I have this little piece of contact paper. I'm going to peel off the backing and just slap that down over the top of my cut letters. Okay. Then I'm going to take the handy dandy scraper burnisher tool that I showed you earlier and see if I can do this one-handed crafting again. I'm going to do this. I'm just burnishing down to really get a good stick between that transfer tape, contact paper, and the vinyl. Flip it over, do that on the back. I do need 2 hands for this one because that backside of that contact paper is sticky. If I'm not holding it, it's gonna stick to my hand. All right, so now I'm gonna try and move in. So leave the vinyl face down and grab the backing corner and peel that up. I have seen way too many people who try to do it this way and pull the contact paper or the transfer tape up. And they're like, ah, my letters aren't sticking. What's wrong? Peel the backing off. Do it this way. See how easy that backing just came off? And now everything is stuck. So now we have everything stuck onto this clear piece of contact paper. So now I can take my item that I want to press it on or place it on. One thing about anything that you're going to apply vinyl to, before you've applied the vinyl, wipe this down with some rubbing alcohol. That helps to get any dust, debris, dirt off of this, even oils from my fingers. That's going to give it a better surface for your vinyl to stick to. Okay, so I'm just going to set this down like this. If you're doing this on a tumbler or a water bottle, I suggest getting some, grab a couple cleaning towels and kind of roll them up and set them on either side and then put your tumbler or your water bottle in there so that it doesn't roll around. I know you're getting all kinds of tips. So now, because this transfer tape is clear, I can look through it so that when I place it, I can position things better. So I just set it on there. Now, after I've done that, I'm going to rub over it with my finger. I can even come back with my burnishing tool and really give it a good rub down. And now I just peel back that transfer tape. And I have now put vinyl letters onto this surface. Now, this is not dishwasher safe. If you're giving this to someone as a gift, I would say, tell them hand wash only. Also, to really get the vinyl to adhere to it for permanently, it's recommended that you let it cure. The curing process is literally just leave it alone. Don't touch it. Don't do anything with it. Don't kind of try to pick up the corners to see if it's sticking. Just don't touch it and leave it alone for about 72 hours. So if you give this as a gift to someone for Mother's Day tomorrow, make sure mom's not going to kind of fiddle with it or wash it right away. Just tell her to let it be. I can now take my contact paper and stick it back on the backing sheet because technically I can use that again. When the contact paper starts to lose its sticky, that's when I move on to another sheet. That's how easy it is. And Veronica, I kind of know you were looking forward to this one because you wanted to label things in your pantry. You can go to town, find a font you like, start typing everything up. You could type up all of the different words that you want to do at once so that you can just cut your whole sheet of vinyl or of permanent vinyl. And then you can start labeling everything in that pantry of yours.
Yeah, it's already ready. It just needs the labels.
I know, because I saw your pictures of organizing the other day.
Yeah.
So you're all organized. You just gotta start cutting.
Mhm.
Personally, when doing lettering, I find that the hardest part is, for me, is picking a font. I'm kind of the person that goes like, "Ooh, I like that one. Ooh, I like that one." I do recommend when you first get started, pick a thicker font like this, rather than something that's really fine and delicate. Those fine, delicate ones are harder to cut, but also harder to read. Any questions on vinyl?
Dawn, I noticed that you mentioned permanent vinyl for that. What would you use the other type of vinyl that's not a permanent vinyl for? Would that be what you'd use for like your walls, if you're wanting to put a sign up on the wall or something?
It is, exactly. It's called removable vinyl.
Mhm.
And since we're in my craft room, let's move. Let's be on the move. I'm a Disney fan. Remember, we've discussed that before. And that is on the wall of my craft room.
Oh, how cute.
Mickey and Minnie and a little mouse hole. This is removable vinyl. And I did it out of removable because when and if we move out of this house for selling purposes, I might have to take this down. So I wouldn't want it to wreck the drywall and then have to re-drywall. A lot of people use removable vinyl when they put like quotes or sayings on their walls. That was a really popular thing for a while. I've also used removable vinyl to make stencils. My daughter and I did a project where we cut these giant stencils of her 3 favorite Disney movies, put that on top of a blank white canvas, and then sponge painted over the top of it,
Oh,
let it dry, and peeled that stencil back off because it was removable vinyl. And what we were left with was the sponge painted look.
I hadn't thought about using the vinyl for that. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it worked really, really good. Because at first I was like, we could use stencil material, but I had bought a huge roll of that removable vinyl. And I was like, you know what? Let's try this and see if it works.
Yeah, because stencil material is a lot more expensive than the vinyl is.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. The stencil stuff was more expensive. I was like, I already have. I'm like, Mama already has this roll. Let's see if it works. Knowing what I know now, if we were to do that project again, I would have used my burnishing tool and really burnished it down good, because there are a couple places where you can see some of the paint bleed. But live and learn. We still love the outcome. They're hanging downstairs outside of her bedroom. I should do a whole series of videos where I just like take a tour around my house of everything I've crafted that's in my house. Good question though. If you're ever wondering, do I have removable or permanent vinyl? With the Cricut vinyl, this is not Cricut brand, but see how there's a grid on the back of the vinyl? So with Cricut, the color of the grid tells you if it's removable or permanent.
Do you have a favorite brand of vinyl that you use? I know there's a lot of different brands.
I do, and thank you for asking. For permanent, I like StarCraft or Oracle. Here's my Oracle white. You can see I like it. So for Oracle brand, on the back, it's going to say 651. 651 means it's permanent. 631 means it's removable.
And what about iron-on vinyl? Do you have a favorite iron-on?
Yes, I do. My favorite iron-on is Caesar.
Okay.
My second favorite iron-on is StarCraft.
Where do you buy the StarCraft at?
At mycraftsource.com. Use
Okay.
coupon code Shawn Mosch to save 5%. I love shopping with My Craft Source. This is not an ad. This is legit me. They have my Caesar and they have my StarCraft. So I always buy Caesar first, unless there's a killer deal on StarCraft, or Caesar does not have the color I want. Because for me, it's about getting the right color and look for my finished project. And I want it to be a good quality product that I'm using. So there are some people that are diehard and like stay with one brand all the time, tried and true. You could go back to the Coke and Pepsi argument. But then there are other people that are like, you know, in a pinch, the other one will do. I feel like StarCraft, some of their vinyl is a little thicker. I started using Caesar first and was introduced to StarCraft because of My Craft Source. They sent me some to try out. And I was like, okay, so I still love my Caesar. But, you know, if I had to, I could go StarCraft.
Thank you.
Yeah. I will never buy Cricut brand vinyl. I had nothing but problems. Lots of tears with my Cricut permanent and iron-on vinyl. I feel like it doesn't cut as well, which is ironic since they make the cutting machine.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, it doesn't weed as nice. Caesar iron-on vinyl, I have gotten it to press onto things with just a home iron. My Cricut brand, when I tried to do it with my home iron, it was a hot mess. There were either parts that didn't stick or parts that melted. When I did it, I was like, how in the world are people actually getting this to work? Here's the thing. The people that promote it are most likely paid by Cricut. And they can do the video and you don't see the 15 shirts that got screwed up so that they could get the one perfect to show you, hey, look how easy it is. I am all about what's really gonna save you time, save you money, and give you the least amount of frustration. Because I'm just a real mom that, you know, likes her crafting, and I don't have the time to fight with my materials. So if I can find a material that's just gonna like, boom, that works so easy. I mean, you saw how easily that vinyl weeded. That's StarCraft. For permanent vinyl, I would almost say StarCraft is now my go-to. And that's probably just because I used to go with Oracle, because I feel like Oracle was the name in vinyl for permanent and removable, but they're not sold at as many of the online stores. So it's like, if I'm already going to My Craft Source to buy stuff, that's where I went StarCraft They have more colors. It's just more fun. Yeah. But iron-on, I love Caesar. It's the best. So good questions. Some people have asked me, well, Shawn, how do you know, like, say you have a stack of vinyl sitting there and you're like, I don't remember, is this permanent? Is it iron-on? So if you can get a corner of it to peel back like this, if you can stick your finger on the vinyl and that's sticky, then this is probably permanent. 99% of the companies, if it's removable, they'll say removable on the back. So if it doesn't say anything, you're trying to determine is this permanent or iron-on. The vinyl is sticky, it's permanent. If the backing or carrier sheet is sticky, it's iron-on. Does that make sense? I am actually doing, oh, here's another thing. You can actually use vinyl on cards. So for this little card, since it was really tiny for those letters on there that say, oh, happy day, I didn't want to cut those out of cardstock and get glue all over my fingers, tried to glue those in place. I cut those out of vinyl. And because I was concerned that using the sticky transfer tape would tear up the cardstock that I was placing it on, I used Glad Press and Seal as a transfer tape. And it works. Yeah, it worked really nice.